But you mentioned that you're currently in New York, and you grew up just outside of Chicago in Buffalo Grove. So are you a diehard Chicago guy? You know about, or do you are you a big fan of the Bears, Bulls, White Sox, Blackhawks, or do you have different favorite teams?
I am. It's funny. Hockey is my sport, and the only sport that I'm not a Chicago fan is hockey, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So like Bears for sure, die hard. White Sox for sure, die hard. Bulls, I grew up in the Jordan era, so that was huge in Chicago. But the Blackhawks when I was growing up were terrible. They were so bad, and they didn't put home games on TV because they couldn't fill the stands. So the owner was like, "If you want to come see us, you got to come see us play at
Wow.
the arena." And it was bad, right? So I became like an adopted Detroit Red Wings fan. Steve Eiserman was my idol, and they're kind of like the next team closest, and they were winning cups at the time, so they became kind of my adopted team. But then as the Blackhawks got a little bit better, it's hard not to root for them because they had, with Kane and Taves and Keith and all those guys, they were real fun to watch. But a diehard Chicago guy for sure. I miss the Midwest. I miss it out there. But New York's live in Central New York. It's got kind of a Midwest feel to it too. So it's pretty good out here for sure.
Yeah, I think a
You s-
lot of people actually fell in love with the Chicago Bulls watching The Last Dance. It's just
Yeah,
unbelievable to see all those guys' character, their story, what a leader Michael Jordan was.
yeah.
Did you watch that, and what did you think about it?
Oh, for sure. I watched it. I was, glued to the TV the second it came on, because, like I said, like those were some of my fondest childhood memories was watching the Bulls. And I remember all six of their. I think I was 6 years old when they won their first one, and so just Michael Jordan was larger than life, just absolutely larger than life. And I'd read some of his books. I'd read all Phil Jackson's books, just kind of trying to get a sense as a coach what that was like, learning from him. And so yeah, I was glued to every second of it, and it was just very very cool to see all the backstories of all the players and how they got to where they got to. And I mean, it's kind of relevant to your guys' podcast and what you're doing too, because pretty much all of the superstars on their team, it wasn't easy for them. All of the superstars had some sort of ups and downs and some major downs in their journey to becoming the best in the world. And I think that's a huge part of the reason why they were so successful where they were, is because they were able to handle some of the ups and downs that comes from being a high level athlete.
Yeah, I loved The Last Dance, and I think that's a great point that you bring up because in one of the episodes they talk about how you just mentioned they have so many superstars and they had to play to their strengths, but play more of a team game too. And I think especially in basketball, when you become such a high level player and you're at such an elite pace, all you want to do is shoot the ball or score. But you have to learn to pass it. You have to learn to play the team game more. And not to mention, too, it's crazy to see how basketball has transitioned. Back then it was a little bit more drive to the net, where now it's kind of more of a shooting game. So it's cool to watch how it's developed, and see how superstars play in today's game versus the game back then.
Yeah, yeah, it was poetry in motion watching the Bulls with their teamwork. It really was, and I think you're seeing that too a little bit more. Even with the Spurs, I like to kind of study other sports and see what they're doing, and the Warriors, and just the selfless play, and how much they emphasize that stuff. And it's interesting because basketball, I feel like, has become a league where it's very individual driven from like a marketing standpoint. But then you like listen to the guys talk about the game, and it's very much a team game. So it's interesting kind of thing to look at. But yeah, the Bulls, I mean, it was very cool to watch as you were growing up, or as I was growing up with it, and then to hear those stories of teamwork and sacrifice, and everything that they did to win. It was really cool to see.
I think my favorite part was seeing how Michael Jordan continued to motivate himself, even though he knew he was the best player in the world. He had already won, four, maybe five championships. I remember one of the last episodes, not to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but they lose game one, and one of his former players comes up to him, and you see that he says, "Good game, Mike." And he didn't take that well. Like it drove him through the rest of the series that he like disrespected him after beating him. And then they come out and go, "Yeah, no, that didn't actually happen." Like he made that up in his head to drive himself. And it's awesome to see someone. I'll never reach that level of athletics. So it's awesome to see someone who's that good still like finding ways to get it done.
It's like literally insane, isn't it? He would make up stories about certain players that he was going to be playing against just to piss him off because that's that's what put him in the right mindset to be great. Yeah, those stories that came out. I mean, you kind of knew that he was the most competitive maybe player ever in history of any sport, but just getting into that mindset and hearing him and even like tearing up that one episode where he's talking about making sure that his teammates were competing in practice, and if you don't want to have that mindset, you don't belong here. And hearing how emotional he got when he did that, I mean, it just kind of, you sit there and you're like, wow, because it's a window into what it takes to really be great, that competitive spirit and that willingness to go out on a limb to demand that from everybody else. Because you need, if you want to be great, you can't just do it on your own. You need other people pushing you, and you need teammates that push you. So yeah, that was. I mean, getting into his psychology was interesting. Probably scary for some people, but very interesting for people who are interested about it.
Sure, we could talk.
Again.
Hey guys, we hope you like this video as much as we like Diesel.
Yeah, Diesel's a big fan of Aversa University, hopefully as much as you guys are. He loves checking out our social media. He loves checking out Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as pretty much every other streaming platform.
If you want to hear more of our episodes, they're released every Monday. We're going to try to have content on all of our social media and more clips like this on YouTube.
Hopefully you pay better attention than Diesel does, but he still loves to watch.